So last month there was a bunch of things that happened. A lot with the transfer portal and some with commits. So first thing I'm gonna break down is, and you can pull it up if you want to. I'm looking back at the 2024 top basketball recruits on 24/7 and things that have changed or not changed really. But with with recruits and transfer portal, what teams are sticking out to you?
I think if I'm gonna go the recruiting wise, I'd probably say Duke. Having Cooper Flag as their number one recruit and the number one recruit overall. I think he's gonna come into the college game and be able to impact it immediately. And then just overall, their recruiting class is summed up really well with I believe it's 5 in the top 20, and then their sixth guy being in the top 40. And so I think they're going to have a really strong recruiting class. Their transfer portal wasn't as great as you would think, being Duke, but I don't think John Shire is that kind of guy that's going to go hit the transfer trail pretty hard. As far as the transfer portal, I really like what Kansas has done. I think Bill Self kind of saw, the problem with his team last year is just they didn't have enough depth. They had their 4 or 5 guys, and that was about it. And so we kind of touched on it the last time we talked about how after their loss, Bill Self was asked, what's the offseason going to look like? And he was saying, I've already been looking at the offseason for the past month or two. So he was kind of checked out and hitting that hard. And I liked what he's done so far. And I see them being a top 2 team preseason-wise with that.
Yeah. So one thing is, of course, there are guys from Overtime Elite, and of course we have a little bias with Rob Dillingham doing great. But what do you think about college coaches recruiting Overtime Elite players?
I don't see anything wrong with it. I think Overtime Elite was, and obviously this is the last year of Overtime Elite, so we won't be having many more of these discussions moving forward. But I think it was fine. I think it gave players a chance to make money before NIL was a thing. Gave them a chance to become a pro before you could, even in college. And so I think, while the competition may be lower than it would be being a high school recruit, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think it built connections even more as a pro than it would be being in college. And so I think, if you're able to recruit Overtime Elite, I also think you're able to recruit players to come because of just pro-wise. I think just them having that quote-unquote pro experience, I think it's going to bring a little bit easier development-wise with them going through everything that an NBA player would just over there and still being a high school player. So I don't really see too big of a problem with it. Honestly, I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah. Were you thinking about the G League Ignite with?
Is that
Yeah, because I don't think the Overtime League is shutting down.
okay? So overtime staying is G League.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the G League Ignite is shutting down, which, of course, all your points were still towards the Overtime Elite.
Yeah.
Because with the G League Ignite, it was mainly like a thing like trying to skip college and play. But whenever you win 2 games and don't really develop your players a whole lot, then you're gonna shut down, and that's basically what happened. Because guys like Ron Holland and Matas Buzelis didn't really improve their stock at all. If anything, Ron Holland's dropped from playing because no one heard of him a whole lot. Buzelis kind of stood the same because he's kind of like a unicorn. But yeah, with Overtime Elite, I think as players are turning out to be more studs, I'll believe in it more. But it's hard just because whenever you see clips of like them carrying the ball every other possession or having a 5-point line or something like that, it's fun to watch. But is like John Shire, Coach Cal, are those guys gonna be looking at that? No. But going through the list, since we looked at it last, the big guy, Kaman Maluach, I don't know how you say that exactly. Big guy out of the NBA Academy for Africa, committed to Duke. Um, all the Kentucky guys, all the former Kentucky commits went different places. Starting at number 9, Jaden Quaintonance, who decommitted from Kentucky, went to Arizona State. Um, let's see here. Derek, I mean, this was a different one, but Derek Queen, number 12 from Montverde. He's a center. He committed to Maryland. Let's see. Boogie Flan, number 20, decommitted from Kentucky and committed to Arkansas. Same with number 23, Carter Knox, and 25, Billy Richmond. Trying to look and see. And of course, since we talked last, number 77, Travis Perry, committed to Kentucky. Number 41, Somto Cyril, who I was pretty big on. He decommitted from Kentucky and committed to Georgia. That's an overtime elite player for you right there. Trying to see who else on top. Another overtime elite player who I'm pretty sure committed pretty recently is John Bowl, number 61, committed to Ole Miss. Are there any guys you want to talk about, or just anything you want to talk about with that in general?
I think, just for us, because we're UK fans, Trent Noah getting out of his NLI with South Carolina and then committed to UK. I think he and Perry are going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of years, unless they both turn out to be Reed Shepherd. But I know they were already committed when we last talked, but number 2, number 3, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both going to Rutgers. Haven't seen, Rutgers recruit like that in a long time.
Right.
I know one has a connection because his brother was there. And then I think VJ Edgecombe staying at Baylor instead of following Alvin Brooks to UK, because there is a connection there between the two. And then Jaden Quaitons, like you brought up, just going to Arizona State, kind of a shocker. You saw him Kentucky lean, and then Arkansas lean, and then Louisville lean, and then out of nowhere it's Arizona State. Definitely some NIL there.
Right.
Then I don't know if you said Lee McNeely. He committed to UConn
Big.
since last time we talked. Big time shooter. I think he's going to contribute right off the bat. So that'll be another name to watch, because I wanted him at UK too.
Yes, I'm really big on Liam McNeely. I just think he has all the tools and stuff like that. UConn somehow just got themselves another squad after winning back-to-back, which guys, of course, guys will go to winners. But yeah, Trent Noah's number 109 on the list, by the way. I was looking at that on here. But yeah, that pretty much covers it. What was I gonna say? Here's one with NIL, which of course Jaden Quaintonance maybe got a couple $1 million. Who knows? Bobby Hurley knows how to get people. That's for sure. If you've got the last name Hurley, you've got coaching in your DNA.
Yeah.
But did you hear about University of Washington pledging, I think it was $2 million in NIL?
Yeah, it's a great all support.
Yeah. And they got number 47, Zoom Diallo. I don't know if it was from that, or because whenever they announced the NIL, like a day later, they get that commit.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
You can take these numbers with a grain of salt. It's like, do I really think you got $2 million? No. But is it possible that you can earn that throughout the year? Yeah. But it's hard to put $2 million on one guy when the dude. Don't get me wrong, Grace, he's a really good player, but he's a 6'9" power forward who can't stretch, and he's a down-low player, and that's all he really does. And in this day and age, I don't see why you'd pay someone $2 million for that, but that's just me.
Right. There was one, whenever I'm looking at this, everybody's basically committed already, except there was one on here. Let me scroll down. I think there might be two. Yeah, two. Which, they're in the top 150. It's not like they're top names, but You got a small forward, Zion Sensley from Archbishop Riordan out of San Francisco. He's a 3-star, um, 6'8", 170. And then you've got number 133, Luke Bangboy. Bongboy? I don't know.
There's a third also.
There is?
101, Anderson.
Oh, yeah? What number is he?
101.
Oh, yeah, Christian Anderson. Yeah, it says 100% to Michigan on there, but I'm not. I mean, so he should be going.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the last guy I was talking about, Luke, he's from Arizona Compass Prep, 6'10", 190, and a 3-star as well. So, keep out.
There's 141 and Chris McDermott out of Booker T. Washington High School.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
He wrote 60 spots in the last update, so a pretty significant jump for him.
Huh. Yeah, so those are some names to look out for in the next little bit for commits.
Yeah, especially with the transfer portal closed now, you kind of, besides the players that are in the draft that can still come out, coaches can kind of see who they want and can also tell these guys, what their roster is going to shape up. And so I would probably expect a few of these guys to maybe commit in the next 2-3 weeks probably.
Speaking of transfer portal, we'll head to that and look at the rankings on here. So since we looked at it last month, Kaderi Richmond jumped up to number 1. He was from Seton Hall, it looks like. No, University. Is that no? That's St. Louis. I'm pretty sure.
Seton Hall, you're right.
It was Seton Hall. Yeah, there. Yeah. So he's going to St. John's, going to play for Patino, which Patino is always a big bias for us, of course. Omar Ballo committed to Indiana. We had that at 100% on the crystal ball, I think, last time. I think we talked about John L. Davis going to Arkansas. AJ Storr going to Kansas. I'm looking at Norchad Omir. I remember we didn't talk about him, but he transferred from the University of Miami, and he's number 5 on the transfer portal ranking, and he's going to Baylor. Baylor picked up some dogs this year. I think this was at number 7. You've got Great Osborne from Utah State transferring to Washington. I think that's who I was talking about.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. So he's a 6'8" big guy, like you said. So that's interesting. But at number 10 and 11, still got some guys that aren't committed. At number 10 is Jameer Watkins from Florida State. He's a 6'7", 210. And you've got number 11, Chaz Lanier from University of North Florida, who is 6'4", 199. He's a shooting guard, sorry. I know that Kentucky is trying to go after Lanier pretty hard. At least last time I checked.
I think it's in Kentucky and Tennessee right now.
Yeah. Which that would be a big get because I'm pretty sure he averaged around 18 points per game this past year. So, then let's see here. Number 12, Jeremy Roach, going from Duke to Baylor. And number 15 and 16 are guys that also did not commit yet. You've got Jalen Wells from Washington State.
Yeah.
6'7", 200. There's no crystal ball on him.
I think all signs are pointing to him staying in the draft right now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot. I don't know a whole lot about him. But then at number 16, you've got Cameron Christie, who is his brother is Max Christie, who's in the NBA now. He was in Minnesota. I wonder if he tries to go to Michigan State to follow. It was Michigan State, right? Or was it Michigan?
It was Michigan State.
Michigan State, yeah. Follow Michigan State like his brother. Number 19, Wuga Poplar from University of Miami. I think he's a pretty good player. He hasn't committed anywhere yet.
Yeah, I know UK is heavily interested in him.
Yeah.
It's just, I think, with him and Chaz, and then also Jackson Robinson, it's like all three of them are in the NBA, so I think it's kind of like which one's staying in, which one's coming out, and it's kind of like you don't know who's going to pull first. And so I think he's one to watch out for UK as well.
Right. I know that Kentucky has 2 spots left, and then they're. I don't know if you saw this post, but they're.
Okay,
Say it again.
I heard it on KSR. They're doing 2 now and saving 1 for the summer.
Right. That's what I was gonna say with that. Which is a smart move because a guy like Jackson Robinson, for example, I think he's the number 1 get for them or number 1 target. With the BYU background, and of course, he averaged like 18 points. So, number 22, Dylan Mitchell from Texas is still not committed yet. Number 24, Coleman Hawkins from Illinois, still not committed. 28, JT Toppin from, I want to say that's New Mexico State. I'm going to look.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, New Mexico.
That's New Mexico.
Yeah. I was looking at I just see the logos on here and go from that.
Yeah, the New Mexico State's the Aggies and New Mexico's the Lobos.
Yeah, okay. Going back more up, Aiden Mahaney, combo guard from St. Mary's going to UConn. That's one of the ones what I was talking about with UConn getting good players still. He could step right in there and just be the Cam Spencer of next year. Who knows?
Oh yeah.
Number 32, Adu Thero, going from Kentucky to Arkansas. That was more recent. Scroll down here. Of course, Kentucky got a bunch of big gets. Let me scroll up. Brandon Garrison from Oklahoma State, going to Kentucky. Number 34, Otega Owe from Oklahoma, going to Kentucky. Number 48, Lamont Butler Jr. going from San Diego State to Kentucky. And that's just in the top 50. But going back here, DJ Wagner is still uncommitted, but it says 100% to Arkansas, which is interesting because I thought that he would try to get away from Cal, but
yeah, and with the whole guard situation there, I mean, you got John L. Davis who got paid a bag, and so he's going to want to contribute. You got Boogie Flang coming in, so it's going to be another situation like he was in last year where he's sharing the rock with 3 other guards, and so I mean, it doesn't make sense to me if you went there, but I understand if he wants to follow Cal, but
Right. It's a big question mark if he's going to start, which you think a former 5-star would want to keep on starting because he started this past year in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But, yeah, number 36 was Jackson Robinson, by the way, who hasn't committed anywhere. Number 41, Trevin Brazil from Arkansas, which, shoot, I would have gone back to Arkansas at this point. But that's just me. Number 42, Aiden Holloway, going from Auburn to Alabama, which that's a bold one. 43, Aaron Bradshaw, going from Kentucky to Ohio State. Let's see here. Big Z going from Kentucky to Arkansas. I'm trying to look at Sean Stewart, number 58, going from Duke to Ohio State. Trying to look at Andrew Carr from Wake Forest is going to Kentucky. That's another one. Number 88, Amari Williams, going from Drexel to Kentucky. Which it's interesting to me that Amari Williams is number 88, even though he's a former McDonald's All-American.
Yeah, he 3-time Defensive Player of the Year in their conference as well.
And that puts you at 88. I don't get that.
I think just playing at Drexel, and then obviously like A lot of these, I take a lot of these recruiting rankings and transfer rankings with a salt, like a grain of salt, just because, like, who really knows? Because, I mean, you got guys like Reed Shepard who were ranked in the hundreds or so, or who was the worst ranked recruit in UK's class last year, and now he's a top 3 pick. You had Dalton Connect, who wasn't even talked about before he came to Tennessee, and then he turned into that. So it's like, these rankings, there's a number of other names, but at the end of the day, you can turn on film and you can see who the player is.
Right. That's well said right there. I mean, because even like, I like to talk about this one with football. Graham Mertz and Devin Leary were two of the top guys in the transfer portal last year, and they kind of played subpar. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could turn on the games and see how they performed. I thought Graham played really well as the year went on. I thought Leary, was on and off, but that was a combination of things, I think. And so, and then you also had Devin Leary, who got drafted to the Ravens, and they said to him that they thought he was sleeper of the draft. So you just really never know.
Right, and also I'm pretty sure he's backup quarterback already.
Yeah, he's going to probably be back up there unless something else happens, just from how they were talking to him after they drafted him.
Right. Anyway, back to the Tuscany here. At 91, you've got Kobe Bree from Dayton going to Kentucky. Number 93, Sky Clark going from Louisville to UCLA, which that's an interesting one. I think he could shine there.
Yeah.
Because that's a better program.
I'm pretty sure he's a West Coast kid, too, so I think he's going home as well.
Number 95, Mason Gillis going from Purdue to Duke. I don't know if we talked about that one last time, but...
No, I think he's just another PJ Tucker, honestly.
Which, those are needed.
Yeah.
I think he played a good role at Purdue this past year.
Yeah. His numbers don't pop off, but I think he contributed well when he was in the game.
Right. He just couldn't hit anything in the championship game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and understandable still. I mean, it's a big-time game, and a lot of them it's their first time playing in that kind of environment, too, so.
Yeah. Looking at the updated ones on here, because I've got the latest up to date. Any more bigger?
I don't know where he is on the list, but I saw Pryor from South Florida committed to Louisville the other day.
Oh yeah.
He's a pretty unique player, just the way he plays. And I think he's a really good addition for Louisville. Honestly, even being a UK fan, I can say that.
Yeah. I don't know where he was on the rankings. I guess it just like disappeared. But Sion James going from Tulane to Duke.
Yeah.
Is another
I heard
one.
that the other day.
Yeah.
I know it's not a transfer portal, but I think he either was committed to Michigan or Michigan State in the high school, and then he's a top 30 player, and he committed today and committed to Louisville as well. Freshman player, top 30.
Top 30, you said?
Yeah. That's what it was on Twitter. It said top 30 player.
Okay.
He committed from Michigan. He committed to Louisville today for 2024, I believe.
Huh. I've got that pulled up here. I can look real quick.
Yeah. And then also, like, while you're looking that up,
what was his... did you say top 30?
Yeah, that's what it said on Twitter, top 30.
Gotcha. But what were you going to say?
I was just saying, while you're looking that up, and I saw him today at Western, Brandon Newman's following Steve Bless to Oklahoma State as well. He's a decent guard, started out at Purdue for a couple of years, and then came to Western last year and had a decent season. Now he's following Coach Les to Oklahoma State. I think that'll be a good ad for him there this first year.
Yeah. This one is Kahani Ruths. Does that sound right?
Maybe. I can probably look it up.
I can look on here and see. He committed. It says. Let me see. Yeah, committed today.
Yeah.
And Decommitted on March 18th from Michigan.
Yep.
Visited May 11th. And got an offer May 14th and committed the next day.
Yeah, so it was a pretty quick process. And Georgia was seen as the heavy favorite in that too, on Three's website, and committed to Louisville with an under 1% chance of getting him. So I'd probably say some NIL factored into that one.
Yeah. So I'm gonna transition into two of the bigger questions. One, how do you think, because they've got to revamp the roster now, and I know they'll probably get a couple more players because I don't think they've got a full roster. How do you think Louisville's going to do next year?
Oh, I mean, they've got to do better than what they've done the last 2 years, you would think. Let me pull up their roster real quick. I'm going to guess most of it's out of the transfer portal, if I had to guess. So I'm not really going to look at their recruiting class, because I think besides the kid we just talked about, so Ali Khalifa was one of their first transfers. He's sitting out this year, doing a medical redshirt. I like Chucky Hepburn out of Wisconsin. I thought he was a really good pickup for them. I think he'll be an upgrade over Sky Clark at the point guard position. I think he's just a more well-rounded player at that guard position. I like Sky's three-point, capabilities, but I like Chucky's all-around game.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about Pryor. I think he's a really unique player. If he comes out of the draft and stays in Louisville, I think he'll be really good. And then the coach brought, looks like, 3, maybe 4 of the Charleston players with them. I know one of them was averaging close to 15 points or something like that. And I know another one was like a 40% three-point shooter. So you add experience there and also really good scoring capability. They added a guy out of Colorado that I got to see in person against Florida in the tournament. I thought he was a really good player. And then I think my sleeper for them is going to be Terrence Edwards out of JMU.
Yes.
I think he's a really, really good player for them. Someone that people don't really talk about too much. So I like them to be, middle of the pack this year in ACC and probably be a fringe NCAA tournament team and probably like a 8, 9, 10 seed probably.
Yeah. I think Coach Pat Kelsey will get them slowly back to normal Louisville basketball ways and not Kenny Payne Louisville ways, which it was a good idea at the time to try to hire someone like that, but he didn't do what Juwan Howard did, which I know Juwan Howard got fired, but what Juwan Howard did is he hired, for his associate head coach, he hired Phil Martelli, who used to coach, I want to say St. Joe's, which I could be wrong on that, but he I think I am right, but he hired Phil Martelli, who Martelli is a good X's and O's coach. And so whenever he hired him right away was, I want to say, the 2021 season, and that's whenever they had their best year. I don't know if you remember, I'm pretty sure they made like either the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, went like 21-10 or something like that. Just real solid. But that's what coaches need to do is, with these big, if the coach is not known for X's and O's, like Kenny Payne, like Juwan Howard, then they need to have an associate head coach or just a main assistant who can do a lot of X's and O's to basically tell the head coach what to do, or suggest if you've got guys with egos, and then they put it on the floor and they go 21-10 after not doing great. Do you think that's smart, or what do you think?
Yeah, and I think you can even look at Coach Cal. As soon as John Robick left or was pushed out the door, things started falling apart for Coach Cal. I'm one that'll back up Coach Cal. I really like him. I think he's a great coach, but I think he's more of a developer, individually wise per player, and also a talent, like a scout for talent as well. But I think X and O's wise, he's probably not, the best out of the top group of coaches. And I think we also saw that this year with, the offense just skyrocketed compared to the last 3 or 4 years with the hire Brady Welch. and now this year he's going to Arkansas, and Kenny Payne's with them. And so I think that'll be interesting to see. So I agree with you. I think, if you're not the greatest X and O's coach, but you're a good developer of talent and you can scout talent, I think if you combine your set of talent with a dude who can do the X's and O's, I think you're set up for a really good season.
Mm-hmm. So, the assistant you're talking about is John Welch from Kentucky this past year.
John Welch, yes.
Yeah, so he's actually going to Fresno State and being the associate head coach.
That surprised me that he would go to Fresno, but I think that also says a lot about him not wanting to follow Cal to Arkansas as well.
Right, and this is a big example of what I'm talking about, because Cal had one of his better offensive years, like you mentioned, whenever John Welch had this kind of like run and gun shoot threes mentality this past year, and they were successful with it until the tournament, and then they didn't defend at all, because that was their one thing this year, is defending.
Yeah.
But so this is going to be the main headline of the podcast. Will Coach Calipari succeed?
I would love for him to succeed, and I think he will. Just because Muscle Mental is able to get him to Sweet 16s and Elite 8s. But for those UK fans that wanted him here, and I was part of that club for a long time, if he succeeds at Arkansas, doesn't mean he was going to succeed at UK, because he's got a lot more at Arkansas than he ever was going to have at UK, just between the relationships that him and the people that gave to the program had. I think he's got a good core of players with, John L. Davis. He's got Big Z coming back. He's got the freshmen. But the problem is the freshmen that he brought in, Boogie Flan, Billy Richmond,
Carter Knox.
Carter Knox. Those three weren't the highest rated of the six that he had. He lost those guys. And so I think first year, I think they're going to contend in the SEC. I think they'll make the tournament. But I think it's going to be another year or two before they're contending for a Final Four or championship. But I do think you will see success. I think Cal is going to have, an agenda to succeed. And, the best Cal is swag Cal. And I think we'll see that this year.
Mm-hmm. With seeing the names of the players that Cal has already got is definitely a little scary at first, just because it's like, oh gosh, they loaded up, and they got players, but a good amount of them were Kentucky commits that were just going to go to Cal anyway. But what you're talking about too with having more at Arkansas than Kentucky is because he burned a good amount of bridges at Kentucky, because he wasn't swaggy Cal, he was kind of arrogant Cal. And I'm not saying that in a way of bashing him. It was just known that he was more arrogant, and it was almost like whatever I say goes, or I want this, I want that. Like, I'm not going to tell you thank you or something like that,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so that's why he didn't get his pledge of NIL money, because they didn't want to support him. And so that's why right away I think now, like, Mark Pope is either raised like $1 million or $2 million in like a week or two.
Yeah,
something
and that's
like
just fan donations.
Right. So it was definitely a divorce for the best, if that makes sense. But my main concern, and this is literally what I talked about just now, who in the world is going to be the X's and O's coach at Kentucky? At Arkansas. Because you've got Cal, you've got Kenny Payne. I don't know who else. I know that Tyler Eulis is there too.
Yeah, Tyler, Brad, Chin Coleman, and Fraser Flynn.
Who in the world is going to be the X's and O's guy?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, 100%. Like, none of them are. Chin Coleman's the defensive guy, and we saw how that played out 2-3 years. Bruiser Flint is just there to be, Cal's best friend.
He recruits a little
Yeah.
bit, but that's it.
Kenny Payne was the recruiter. He was the big he developed the big guys. So I mean, you might see a little bit more out of Big Z this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, Cal has lost his two best X and O's guys the last few, past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And that's also a burned bridge with Robick, is that he butt heads with Robick and Robick left.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, which that frustrated me, especially I remember whenever I think it was the COVID year that they didn't do too hot, like it was their worst year, and Robick and Cal, that was like the final straw. I think that's after that year is when Robick left. But I remember, I think Cal got tossed at Mississippi State, and Dante Allen hadn't been playing a whole lot up until that point. And Dante Allen played the rest of the game with Robick, and I think that's the game he had like 27 points or something like that, and they won in like double or triple overtime.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I think that Arkansas can succeed. Will they? Maybe. Like you talked about with Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne's a good player development coach. That's what Cal hired him for originally. That's what the New York Knicks hired him originally. That's what Louisville hopefully was trying to do. But you see how that worked out because he didn't have a X's nose guy. But yeah, Kenny Payne's a player development. Chin Coleman, yeah, like you said, questionable defense. Who knows about that? But, and then Bruiser Flint, like you said, is just there. Maybe does some recruiting. Brad and Tyler Eulis are there just to wash the uniforms, basically. So, who is going to be doing the X's and O's over there? The raw talent over there could just do it themselves, and Arkansas may win it all somehow. Who knows? But I think that college basketball has turned to a point where they need fundamentals again. They need strong plays. They need strong defense the whole game. You can't just go with raw talent. And I think that's why Dan Hurley has won these past 2 years, is because he's had talent. But if you've seen breakdowns of UConn's plays and UConn making plays on both ends, whether that be with how they switch on defense or their screens on offense and how they're just spacing on offense in general. It's beautiful to watch the breakdown because Dan Hurley knows his stuff. I know that some people don't like Dan Hurley a whole lot because he can be a little arrogant, but Dan Hurley, I don't know if it's Dan Hurley or his coaching staff that has broken down basketball to the fundamentals on both sides of the floor and made sure that his guys are determined and consistent. And that's what these college basketball teams need nowadays. You're not going to have Anthony Davis average 5 blocks a game and win it all. But anything to add there? I probably just went on a little rant or tangent.
I mean, I think you hit it spot on. I don't think there's really much to add there. I think it's just, let's just wait and see what happens, man. You know what? If he does well, then you got to give it to him. And if he doesn't, then you got to say, well, I mean, kind of saw that one coming.
Right. So, I guess the last thing that we can touch on is I'm looking at the transfer basketball team rankings. So, at number 1, you've got Arkansas, who has Big Z. They've got Jonas Adu, from Tennessee. You've got John L. Davis from Florida Atlantic going to Arkansas, and you've got Adu Thero from Kentucky going to Arkansas. At number 2, you've got Indiana with 5 commits, which one of them is Omar Ballo, along with Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, which Miles Rice is from Washington State, Carlisle's from Stanford, Luke Good from Illinois, and Langdon Hatton from, I want to say, from Bellarmine. That's an interesting one. Bellarmine's close to me, and Landon kind of. St. John's at number 3, West Virginia at number 4, and Kentucky at number 5. You've got Kansas at number 6. It seems like they're okay. Here's why, and we didn't talk about this. The guy from Florida, I can't think of his name right now.
Riley Kugel.
Yeah. Did he? Was it academics, or why is he not there? Or why is he not going there?
I think it's just a mixture of academics as well as playing time. I think I've been reading that, if Jackson Robinson were to pull out of the draft, that he could possibly be going to Kansas as well instead of Kentucky. But I also think, with the return of DeJuan Harris as well, he's going to be the starting point guard. And for some reason, it's not letting me pull up players on their team right now. Oh, there it is. But A.J. Storr and Zeke Mayo as well, another 2 guards that are going there. I think he's just worried about playing time right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's not even coming up. Oh, it's because it's 25 basketball, but I need to look him up.
But yeah, he decommitted, and he's available in the portal again.
Okay. Which that's why it didn't show up at first for me with the top basketball rankings.
Yeah, and I don't get Arkansas at 1. Big fan of John O. Davis, but Jonas Adu is not a big man in today's college basketball and NBA world. Big Z is too weak right now. Needs to put on some weight, put on some muscle. Needs to play more consistent. And then Adu, he's going to be solid for you. I think if he gets a bigger role, I think his number is going to pop up. But I don't get the number 1 ranking there.
No, and it's probably just because some of it's got to do with the Kentucky hype with both Calipari and with Big Z and Adu Thero coming from Kentucky, which both of those guys had their moments, but it's not like they popped off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that I'm with you. Number 1 is a little interesting. You've got, so Arkansas got 4 4-stars. I don't know if these stars are going off of. They have to be going off of the transfer rankings.
Yeah, it's their transfer rating.
Yeah, so with Arkansas's averaging 95.5, then you've got Indiana averaging 95, St. John's with a 93.75, West Virginia with 90.71, Kentucky with a 93.86, but I think that the average, or not the average, but the points that they got is less than West Virginia, even though they've got more. Looking at this, another one for Kentucky was Kerr Kriisa from West Virginia, who, it says he's a point guard, but he's going to be a shooting guard at Kentucky for the most part, because he shot 41% from 3 last year. I remember that at the top of my head. He's kind of older, which that's something that hasn't really happened with Kentucky basketball a whole lot.
Yeah.
So that's promising, which, yeah, they're Kentucky getting 7 players, and then, of course, I know that they lost 7.
Travis, Colin Chandler, Trent Noah, and then still looking at 2 to 3 more.
Right. Which, looking at the list here, they probably need a 4, maybe.
Yeah.
Cause
I think they're looking at getting that dude from FDU, and I think that would fill in the backup 4 role.
Yeah. Because right now, Trent Noah's a 2 or a 3. Travis Perry is probably going to be a 1. He could run the 2, but he's, 6'1"? So, he's probably going to be a 1. You got Lamont Butler Jr., who is a 1. Kobe Bree is a 2, maybe 3. He's 6'6". Andrew Carr is 6'9". They list him as a small forward, but he's probably going to be a power forward.
Yeah, Coach Pope says he wants to play him like Roy Markkinen.
I like it. Yeah, he can shoot it. Coach Pope got a lot of shooters, which that's what we need. But Kerr Kriisa, like I said, he's 6'3". Says he's a point guard. He can maybe run shooting guard. Otega Owe is 6'6". It says he's small forward. He could maybe run the 3, maybe the 2 zone. And then Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison being both 5s, with being 6'10" and 6'11". And they're stocky.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm looking at the list here. West Virginia's got 7 commits. Of course, they've got Tucker DeFries, who went with his dad. You've got 4-star Javon Small from Oklahoma State. 4-star Amani Hansberry from Illinois. I didn't hear about Amani Hansberry last year, did you?
No, I haven't heard about him. I didn't hear him play much.
Yeah. But, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 3-stars who their average around probably like 87. Which, this goes back to the point. The rankings or the points and all this doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, you've just got to see who's out on the floor and who's basically, who's going to put the ball in the basket, because you could be top ranked and just do meh. I'm looking at the last list. So last year, Kansas was number 1 in the transfer portal. Of course, because Dickinson was there. But Nick Timberlake, he did some stuff, but he was a 4-star ranked 94. Had a 94 ranked like composite number, which was iffy. West Virginia was number 2 last year. Do you remember how good West Virginia did last year?
They were in the bottom of the Big 12.
Exactly. And at the time, because Kerr Kriisa transferred there last year, he was a 93 last year, and I want to say he's like an 85 this year. And let's see here. TCU, another one. TCU and Villanova, 3 and 4. TCU may have made the tournament. Did they? Do you know?
Yep, they played Utah State in the first round and lost.
Okay.
They were an 8. No, they were a 9 seed.
Okay. So they made the tournament, but they shouldn't be a top 5 transfer team. And you've got Villanova, who got Lance Ware, who was a 90 ranking on here. I think he averaged like 2 points.
And he's transferred again this year.
Right. And you've got Tyler Burton from Richmond who went there. I didn't really hear about him a whole lot. He may have gotten some buckets, but besides the point, Villanova didn't make the tournament. And so this goes back to the point of, we can look at these rankings, we can look at the preseason stuff all we want and make our predictions and stuff like that. Until the tip-off, it's only speculation. These rankings could look back, and Arkansas could have just blown everybody out of the water, or they could have just been questionable with their number 1 It's all just a big question mark right now. If there's one thing for certain, do not believe all the hype that you see on all these social media sites. But yeah, do you have any closing thoughts or things about the recruits that we've talked about today?
No, man. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think we're gonna see preseason rankings, and at the end of the year, they're gonna be completely different than what they were at the beginning of the year. I think it's gonna be fun to watch, and even the next few weeks, the next few months are gonna be interesting on how it all unfolds at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right, that wraps up our. It's almost like we're turning into a monthly college basketball episode.
Yeah.
Which I can't complain at all. I love talking college hoops. I love talking sports. We always enjoy it together.
Season go by faster.
Exactly. All right, man. Appreciate you jumping on once again, and looking forward to the next episode.
Absolutely, brother. I'll see you next time.
All right, I'll see you.
All right, bro.
Peace.